Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm just sitting here. I'm about to go take a ride, spend some time with the Lord. And God, He put it on my heart, and He reminded me, because He had been putting it on my heart now for almost about a week, to make this video, because there are some people that are in relationships, and you know that it's not a relationship that you're actually supposed to be in. You understand that you are completely unequally yoked, and that person, that woman or that man, is not your spouse. Like that's not the person that God has sent to be in your life. So but you're still in the relationship. You know, Paul says in the Bible, should we continue to sin so that his grace may abound? Excuse me. And every day that you continue to stay in that relationship, God, He gives you, He renews our graces and our mercies on a regular basis. But should we continue to stay in a situation knowing that it is wrong, knowing that, that is not the person that we're supposed to be with? That, God is convicting you every time you are on your way to that person's house, every time you're leaving the next morning from that person's house and you're headed back home, or you're headed to church, if you go there on the weekends, and, you're leaving on a Sunday morning and then you're going from that person's house straight to church. Should we continue to stay in our sin because we know that God is going to, give us grace? But the problem is, you don't know when His grace is actually going to run out, for that situation. You just don't know. There's no way to really know. But staying in that relationship is causing so much damage to every area in your life. And some of you are wondering, or some of you may accept the lies of the enemy that just says, oh, well, the only consequence you may have is pregnancy, or an STD. But the reality of it is, it's way more than just pregnancy or an STD. When you are connected to someone and you have a soul tie with that person, yes, you can get pregnant and you can get an STD, yes. But however, the spiritual ramifications for that relationship is going to be whatever demonic forces are operating over that person's life is now going to come into your life. And that may be depression, that may be sadness, that may be loneliness, that may be suicide, that may be homosexuality, because you don't know if they, have lived that lifestyle before, or if they still have struggles with it. That may be addiction of some sort, rather that be of pornography, rather that be of masturbation, rather that be of drugs, rather that be alcohol, maybe that, could be shopaholic. I mean, you don't know what that person's actually dealing with. But you are now going to be dealing with their problems as well as your own, because of that soul tie that you have created. And the thing is, when we stay in relationships where we know that we don't belong, because that person is not our spouse, they're not the one that God sent for us, the issues that they have, you don't even have the tools to help them with it, let alone the tools to even help yourself to get delivered, from those demonic spirits that you've now acquired. Because when you're married, and you are connected with your spouse, yes, they're going to have problems. Yes, you're going to have problems. However, God gives us the tools to be able to, the tools that are specifically needed in order to deal with the issues that our spouse has. That's why that's why there's, some people are, that actually know that they have those tools and they're using those tools effectively. They end up being married for decades and decades. It's because God has given us, you those tools that you need for your spouse, for your husband, for your wife. But when you're in a relationship that you don't belong in, that God has not ordained you to be in, you're not going to have any of the tools that you need. That's why when you go on Google, you're looking up, okay, how do I help my boyfriend, what affirmations can I tell my boyfriend to get him, to not feel depressed or sad all the time because he's having depression spells. It's not going to work. But it's not going to work because that's not the boyfriend. That's not the man for you. That's not the man that God has told you that belongs to you. So it's not going to work. There's no amount of gifts that you can give this person, to make whatever their issues are go away. There's not any amount of sex that you can have with this person to make them, not continue to seek out, other women or men. There's not enough FaceTime calls that you can have with this person to know that they're still not gonna, as soon as you hang up off the phone, that they're not gonna be, going to go visit somebody else. Like, there's nothing you can do when it's a relationship that does not belong to you, because God is the one who puts man with woman and woman with man, and he's the one who has created someone specifically for you. So it's time to leave this relationship that is toxic, that is unholy, where you are unequally yoked. It is time to leave the relationship because you don't know at what point God's grace is going to run out and you will start reaping the consequences for your disobedience, because God has already told you before, hey, this is not the relationship you are supposed to be in. Yet you still find all of the reasons in the world to continue to stay in this relationship. And I get it, because as soon as you're about to leave, here comes the other person. Now all of a sudden they want to talk about marriage. Now they want to talk about getting a house. Now they want to talk about actually having kids. Whereas before they weren't interested in any of those things, but that's because it's the enemy, because the enemy also knows when you are trying to pull away from a relationship that you are not supposed to be in. He will do whatever it takes to keep you bound. So don't be wise in your own eyes. When God says it's time to go, it's time to go. And especially if he didn't want you to be there in the first place. So the best thing to do is to leave as soon as you can. Cut that person off. You need to block them. You need to keep it moving, and you need to throw away all of the stuff that they have given you. And you need to pray, because at this point, because of your disobedience, there's a lot of witchcraft that is at work, that is over your life, and you're going to have to cancel and bind up all of the witchcraft, which also means you need to get rid of those items that the enemy could be using to monitor you in your life. You have to get rid of it all. There's natural steps that you can take, but there's spiritual steps that you need to take as well. So it is time to leave that relationship. It is time to remove yourself from that toxicity. That's the reason why you have found that you haven't been able to keep a job. That relationship is that disobedience that you really, it's the disobedience, because you weren't supposed to be in the relationship in the first place, and you know this. That's the reason why you are financially struggling. That's the reason why you're dealing with confusion. That's the reason why there's so much chaos in your family. That's the reason why even the relationships that you have, with your friends and stuff like that, those relationships are strained. That's the reason why, just random things just don't work for you. It's like, it should be the simplest things that should work, and they don't work. They fall apart. That's the reason why interviews are being canceled, because the employer's going with someone else because of the disobedience, which is sin. There are demonic forces that are at work that is working against your life and your future. So it's time to leave those relationships alone. So I hope that this has helped someone, because God has put it on my heart now for about a week. And I really pray that you take heed to this information, because a lot of you, God's grace is about to run out, and you are going to find yourself in a very messed up situation that you're not going to be able to get out of. And it's just going to be a part of that consequence. So love you guys, and you have a blessed day, a blessed Monday.